Within the past decade, a court decision has been made that could drastically affect the lives of everyone in America, and many have only heard of it a handful of times. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission has opened the floodgates for billionaires and corporations to pour in massive amounts of money into the pockets of our politicians. And while that might not seem like a bad idea at first, when you really consider how this decision will interfere with your life, you'll see that with more money, the wealthy are allowed to give our politicians the more control they'll have over our lives. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission allows legalized bribery between the most affluent and our elected officials, the loss of the average American citizen's voice, and the overall deterioration of America's democracy. First, let's just go over the basis of what this court decision actually means. Citizens United, at its core, is the legalization of bribery. In the words of our own President Obama, with this ruling today, the Supreme Court has given a green light to a new stampede of special interest money in our politics. Before this decision, we had a limit. So though our system hasn't always been perfect, you can see how this made it much worse. And while many thought it would be transparent, it has yet to be. Very few politicians actually want their donators to be public, and only a couple of donators have come out, such as the Koch brothers. But what does this mean for regular citizens? This means the loss of the average American voice. I'll give you a great quote by William J. Miller from ABC Solutions. He says, "Ceteris paribus, the candidate who spends the most wins the election. The simple fact in and of itself is that voting power has been diluted in the American electoral system. Well, obviously, Congress is going to serve the one who's paying them. The corporations and billionaires pay them because they know by spending just a couple million, they're actually saving billions when they get tax cuts and deregulations. According to the editorial board at New York Times, thanks to lax or non-existent regulations, a race can be dominated by a single spender, with his own policy agenda essentially working in collaboration with the campaign. But before this decision, politicians had to fundraise, and that meant we, the citizens, were paying them to do what we wanted and what we knew was best for us. Now instead, we have to live with lower pay rates, more pollution, and we can't even have a say in these decisions. But what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? Basically, it is the deterioration of America's democracy. This has never supposed to happen. James Madison, a founding father of our country, had to say this: "The power of all corporations ought to be limited. The growing wealth acquired by them never fails to be the source of abuses." So even before this country became what it is today in modern times, we were warned of what could possibly happen. We are no longer in control of the laws passed, of choosing the people to represent us in Congress, or even aware that this is happening. We have given away many of our rights as American citizens, and we have a huge uphill battle to face if we want our country to go back to the way it should be. The American people have not been informed to the full extent of what this court decision and the effect it will have on them. Most do not know that bribery between our country's wealthiest and the politicians is now legal, which means they have basically lost our voice as American citizens, and also our country has lost its core belief, which is democracy. But you now have the power to inform others, and the information I have given you today will help. Many people are living in the dark of what is happening, but not you. We can and we will change the course of our history, but in order to do that, everyone needs to do their part and keep knowledge alive, so that we can keep control of our society out of the hands of people who don't have our best interests in mind. Thank you.
Yes.
Very good.
Damn, I keep my battery really.